to St Mary's with Sussman's tail between his legs was not an option, but I could take reasonable precautions and at the same time send out an unmistakable message. I said, "Computer, restrict access to this pod. Access Maxwell only. Authorization, Maxwell 50 Alpha 9804 Bravo. Confirm. Restrict access to this pod. Maxwell only. Confirmed." I opened my comm. "Report to me, please, at once." I watched him scurry up the path. That narrow bit was really beginning to look a bit dodgy. I made a note to look for a new route. He was correctly dressed in woodland camouflage, swollen-eyed and pale, his hair still wet. Arriving in the pod, he said, "Door," and nothing happened. He waited a few seconds and repeated himself more loudly. The door stayed shut. He got the message. Raising his arm, he knocked quietly. I let him in. I didn't ask him to sit down, nor did I sit myself. The dinosaur-strength pepper spray stood ostentatiously to hand. I opened my mouth to speak, but he held up his hand. "No, please, Max, just let me say something. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I don't know what happened. Well, I do, obviously, but I don't know why. If it's any help, I'm as horrified as you are and deeply ashamed. I'm begging you, please don't end this mission now. We've come so far. There's only 16 days left, and all we're scheduled for now is data gathering. I see you've put a lock on your pod. That's fine. I understand. But let's finish the assignment. Please, Max, I cut across him. I've already decided. This mission will continue, but there will be different rules. Unless instructed otherwise, you will remain in your pod. You will eat and sleep there. You will keep a reasonable distance at all times. You will not touch me. Any and all conversation is to be of a professional nature only. If you do not agree to this, then this mission is terminated now with all the subsequent unpleasantness that will entail. He swallowed and nodded. Right, the northern end of the valley. We've not been there yet. We'll do another contour map, note any new species of dinosaur we might come across, but today I mostly want to get to grips with flora, which is your area. Is your weapon charged? He nodded again, looking paler than ever. May I speak? I only want to suggest we concentrate on equipment today and do the northern end tomorrow, when we feel more... No, today. He looked unhappy, but I didn't care. I shouldered my pack. Let's get started. We set off down the path. "Oh, wait a minute," he said. "But this next bit's not good." He remembered, swallowed, and said formally, "Well, perhaps you would like to go first. If you take off your pack, then I can throw it across to you, and then do the same for mine. If you agree, that is." God help me. I took all this meekness at face value. I slipped off my pack and started across the narrow bit. "Watch your feet," he said. They warned us over and over at St Mary's. But until it actually happens to you, you can have no idea of the speed and silence of a raptor attack. I saw and heard nothing. The first I knew was when something solid caught me across my back and shoulders. I staggered heavily, the path gave way, and I lost my balance and went over the edge. I rolled, fell, and bounced for what felt like a lifetime. Other things hit me, hard things, rocks, boulders, branches. I had a mouthful of shale. It went up my nose. I had no idea which way was up. I tried grabbing at things to slow my fall, but everything was falling with me. I hit something solid and stopped. I could feel debris piling up around me. I tried to bring my arms up to protect my face and give myself a little breathing space, and then I think I passed out. I only became aware of things very slowly. It was raining and the moisture felt pleasant on my face. I lay under a great weight. Turning my head carefully, I could see I was partly wedged under a fallen tree trunk and partly buried by what felt like half a mountain. I spat gravel and took stock. My back hurt, but I suspected that came from the initial attack. My helmet and vest had done a good job of protecting me on the way down, but every exposed piece of skin burned with Cretaceous road rash. My first instinct was to try and wriggle free, but second thoughts told me to stay put. I had no idea how long I'd been out, seconds or hours. There might still be raptors around, and if they heard or saw me moving, they'd be down here in a flash. And I was in a very precarious position here. This tree trunk was the only thing keeping me from falling any further, and I would like it to continue doing so. It looked a long way down. It was a bloody long way up, too. Not only that, but the ground looked treacherous and unstable. If I did manage to get free, then I would have to work my way over to the left, to solid bedrock, and try to get up that way. Some dinosaur deity somewhere was smiling on me though, because the rain felt soft and warm and refreshing. If it turned into a typical Cretaceous downpour, I'd either be washed away or maybe drown. How can you possibly drown halfway up a mountain? Maybe I should be looking at office jobs again. Activating my comm, I whispered, "Sussman, can you hear me? Davy, are you there? Report." No reply. Nothing but static. Trapped as I was, I dared not try again. I decided to go this slowly. I was lying more or less the right way up and on my back, so I gently wriggled my left foot. It came free. Good start. My other leg was wedged under the tree, so I left it for a while and tried my left arm. Inch by painful inch, I got that free. But as soon as I tried my right arm, the shale started moving again. I rolled over onto my side as best I could and gently began to ease my arm free. The problem was my leg. I couldn't afford to dislodge the tree trunk, which was the only thing preventing me from tumbling down the lower skirts of the volcano into the dinosaurs' feeding ground below. Finally, my brain started to work, and I hit on the idea of digging under my leg and easing it out that way. Many, many ruined fingernails later, I struggled free. Free, but not safe. I can't say how long it took me to work my way across the scree, 1 step across, 2 steps down. But once there, the actual climb up was quite easy. I took my time getting over the top, lifting a careful eye above the edge and scanning the area. I waited perhaps 10 minutes until my arms started to tremble, hoisted myself over, rolled to my feet, got my bearings, and set off for 8. Activating my comm again, I said quietly, "Sussman, are you there? Sussman, answer me." Nothing. "Sussman, report." Nothing. Shaking like a leaf now, I inched my way cautiously along that bloody path, and then I saw why he wasn't answering. Pools of black, sticky blood lay all around. Away off to one side, I saw a boot. His foot was still in it. Something brittle snapped inside me. I grabbed it, ran as fast as I could on trembling legs, shouted, "Door!" crashed headlong into 8, and lay gasping and shaking on the floor. I gave myself 20 minutes. No more, otherwise I'd never get up. I double-bagged the foot and went to put it in the chiller. I saw a bottle in there and was sorely tempted. I made tea instead and, moving like a robot, showered carefully, cleaned my wounds, plaited my hair, and exhausted, pulled out my sleeping module and closed my eyes. And climbed back out again and found my photo. Getting back into bed, I hugged it tightly and curled myself around it. I missed him. I could go back, feel the comfort of his arms around me. No one would blame me. I would blame me. After another minute, I gave up the idea of sleep completely and let my mind do what it wanted, which was to think of Sussman being Sussman, alternatively loved and loathed. I remembered his kindnesses, especially to me. I found it so hard to believe that this time yesterday he'd been snoring away beside me, and now he was dead. I wish to God I could have this day again and do things differently, do them better. Suppose he'd tried to get back to my pod. I'd put a lock on it. He wouldn't have been able to get back in. Common sense told me that was rubbish. Once the raptors closed in, he wouldn't have been able to go anywhere. We'd been together for 4 years, bickering, laughing, competing, always trying to get the edge, but not anymore. Never again. This was my mission. How could I have let this happen? I couldn't believe I'd never see him again. And so on, all that long night. Recrimination, grief and regret surging around inside until finally I fell into an exhausted sleep just before dawn. The next day I dressed stiffly, stuffed some food in another backpack, took what I needed, hefted my blaster and stood by the door. I took 2 or 3 deep breaths. I checked all the proximity alerts. Nothing lurked nearby. Get back on the horse, Maxwell. I opened the door. I don't know why I was surprised to see everything exactly as it had been. I set off, but not for the northern end of the valley. That was too far on my own, but I could do useful work further along towards the lake, on the eastern side. I found a crack in the cliff face where I could safely wedge myself and started work. I filmed, measured, and noted the vegetation. Conifers on the high slopes, pinus and metasequoia, and broad-leaved trees lower down. All trees were here from oaks to palms. Around mid-afternoon, I trudged back, keeping a careful watch, weapon ready, but all was quiet. I worried the raptors might return, looking for more of the unusually flavoured mammals, but I guessed they'd moved on. I checked all our equipment, collected the used discs, and replaced them with new ones. I'd left it all out overnight, and none of it seemed to have suffered at all, so I decided to leave it in situ. It was heavy, and I didn't want to break anything by trying to lug it around by myself. It was difficult going into 3. Sussman's stuff lay all over the place. I tidied it all carefully away, concentrating only on what I was doing and not allowing my mind to wander. I watched my hands fold his clothes and stow his kit neatly. I took the readings, turned off the lights, and left without looking back. Approaching my pod from a different route, I found myself looking down on the clearing and path. The stains were still there. I didn't want to attract predators, so I went down, kicked dust and gravel over the blood, and picked up what I could find of our packs. I climbed onto the pod roof, checked the scanner alignments, changed the discs, and climbed down again. Inside, I showered, ate, wrote careful logs for that day and the day before, and did my data entry. I filed the discs, and still slightly surprised at this calm, efficient me, went to bed.